Hi, welcome to Dreams Recycled Expert Series. I'm excited today to have Joseph Napoli, a trial attorney at Bierman Law Group, which is one of the largest family law groups in Illinois. So thank you very much for joining us today, Joseph. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. Usually I'm the divorce expert, but I met my match today. So
Well,
I'm looking forward to it.
I do not claim to know any legal facts. So that's why we have people like you who are expert on these. I know from my personal experience that being divorced is pretty kind of scary, especially going through the court system. And so well, let me ask you firstly, what drew you to want to be a family law attorney?
You know, it's interesting. My dad is an attorney. He practiced two types of law, which was family law and criminal law.
Oh, wow.
He's been practicing for over 50 years in Peoria, Illinois. I'm sure a big vacation destination for everyone that's listening. And he's done several murder trials, several divorces. And one of my first clerkships was I was very fortunate. I got in at a very prestigious law firm that practiced family law. And to be honest with you, because that was one of the areas that my dad did, that's what I fell into. So if he sold, so in the short answer, if he sold shoes, I'd be selling shoes. If he sold cars, I'd be selling cars.
Well, I think you actually kind of grow up, whatever your family does. That's actually interesting because I think you actually learn a lot through osmosis, don't you? From being around that environment. And if your family members are lawyers or doctors or whatever, you kind of absorb a lot of that. And so no doubt when you started in your career, you were probably a lot further ahead than people who had never, had any access to that kind of background. So that's interesting.
Yeah, it was a little bit helpful to see what I wanted to do. My dad was always, I had a little bit of a sports background, so he was always concentrated. He says, you don't want to do this. You don't want to do this. Let's hit the baseball. Let's go outside. So, but it was interesting.
Yeah, no, you were interesting. So when people come through the family law system, talking to our audience, a lot of them are separated, a lot of them are just beginning, or maybe they're in the middle of it and thinking, oh no, what is going on? What are the three most important things to remember about the family law system? Because it can be quite frightening.
So 3 things that I can think of, and it's not necessarily in order of importance, but I think one important thing is having a plan. And that's you as the client having the plan, but also understanding that plan with your attorney. And your attorney is going to be the one that spearheads that plan. And I think when you know these things in advance, and that leads into my second area, and I'll talk a little bit more about it, is managing expectations, okay? And some of it goes to the simple things. When do I have court next? What's going to happen in court? What are we trying to accomplish? There's always the question, how long is this going to take? And I think if you have a plan with your attorney and say, listen, where are we trying to go? What are we trying to accomplish? And we set those things out, and then the attorney puts forth their experience and strategizes with the client and says, here's how I think we can get there. And this is why I think it's going to be best for you. And if you have children, this is why I think it's going to be best for your children. This is why I think it's going to be the most economical and get you the best results. Okay. And then there's going to be avenues and to go from there. But number one is the plan. You have to have a plan. I think it's very important for the client to have an understanding. And in my practice, what I try to do, because I value that plan so important, is I like letting the client know before they ask me the question. So if a client asks me the question that I feel as an attorney, I didn't do the best job that I could do, because I want to front those issues. I want to answer those questions before they're asked, because they're going through a lot. These clients are going through a lot. It's sometimes, possibly, unfortunately, some of the most emotional times maybe in their lives. And I think it's very important to help as the attorney to minimize that effect. So number one is the plan. Number two is managing the expectations. And what I mean by that is oftentimes there is splitting, okay? There is sharing going on, and not everyone likes to share.
No.
That could go with property. That could go with, certain financial aspects, and maybe most emotionally, that goes with the children.
Right. It's very
And so,
difficult.
right. And so a lot of people, and I can't blame them. I want it all.
Mm-hmm.
Very few cases do, and I've been fortunate enough to be on the right end of some of those. Very few do you get it all.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to manage expectations, and I think that helps with client anxiety, expectations, and having realistic goals. And the last thing, and I apologize for being long-winded, is I think it's important for the client to know that they are possibly, whether it's acrimonious or not, they're in litigation. Okay. So how you conduct yourself is very important. And I advise clients that, really from this point forward, act as if all eyes are on you. Act as if every correspondence, every text message, every email is being seen by someone. Mm-hmm. And how you want to be portrayed, because what you're doing is you're giving yourself a first impression. And if you're in litigation, you're giving the judge the first impression of you. And how do you want to make that? Because there's only one, right? We always know there's only one first impression. So,
well, and sorry,
go ahead, Tiffany.
I mean, you're dealing with people who just do not know you, right? And two people walk into a courtroom. How does a judge possibly know which one of you may be the crazy one, the extreme one, the violent one, the nice one, the good one? I mean, you really can't tell. So definitely, I agree with you. Always take the high road. Can't go wrong from that point, right?
I 100% agree. And here's the thing. When you take the high road, let's say you don't. How is that going to help you? Give me a scenario where you tell someone off, you use profanities, you maybe withhold the child or children without good cause, okay, or without good reason. Tell me how that's going to further your cause.
Right.
Or you're posting certain things. I tell clients, you got to clean your social media. If you're upside down on doing a cake stand, maybe we take that off. Maybe that's not the best foot we put forward.
I mean, that's not a good thing to have out there.
Probably not a good thing. But these are things that you would think most would think of, but they don't. Okay. And I get a lot of my ammunition from this, because that's the first thing I ask on the other side is, listen, every negotiations and trials all about leverage.
Right.
I want to do the best job I can do for my client. And, a lot of it starts with the client. Provide me with the ammunition. Okay. And I will take care of the rest. So I will get my client in that kind of mode. Is that, listen, if you have something, how's the social media working? So in other words, if you have an issue with the other parent or spouse, listen, tell me what those issues are. And then I need to prove it to the court.
Right.
So they have certain correspondence. Okay. Give that to me and I will do the rest.
Yeah, and I think it is interesting. I think divorce obviously definitely brings out the worst in some people. I love that saying, if you want to know who you really married, divorce them, right? I mean, that's very true. Everything negative you're ever going to see all bubbles to the top during a divorce. But it still astounds me. My clients, the people we talk to, I mean, it's like no common sense is involved. Like you say, they let their emotions get to the point that they're posting crazy things. They're sending threats and texts and emails and doing things that, like you say, rightly so, is never going to advance them or help them out in a court of law.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. And what I try to do is assure my clients, and I'm being sincere when I say this, is that it's going to be okay. And then I tell them why it's going to be okay. Here's what we're going to do when it's going to be okay. And it provides a calm. And I think that's very important, because I've represented the brightest people, okay, the most successful businessmen, the most successful sportsmen. And when it's your own issue, the smartest people, your judgment gets clouded. You can't see straight. And so I know that, I expect that. So I don't put that pressure necessarily on my clients to navigate clearly all the time. That's part of my job. And I have to keep people and remind them and tell them, like you asked me, what's 3 important things? Those are 3 things at minimum that I share with my clients to listen, always keep this in the back of your mind. Let's stay on the right track. And what I always say to my clients, we have to keep our eye on the prize.
Right. Well, okay, so talking about trial. So you are from a very prestigious law firm and you have some very high-end clients. Obviously, we're not going to talk about anyone specifically, but it's interesting to me that heartache and divorce is the kind of universal equalizer, right? I'm lucky enough to have some high-end clients too that I coach, and it always astounds me. It doesn't matter if you were the janitor or the CEO, if you were going through divorce, you're in a lot of pain, you're in a lot of heartache. And so is there anything you've learned from maybe your higher end clients on, you know, how that affects you in any way differently?
You know, there's no small cases. One of my mentors told me there's no small cases, there's just small-minded lawyers, okay? And you hit it right on the head. And that it doesn't matter what you do for a living, the pain is pain. And it all is going to hit, you know, possibly the same. So it doesn't matter what you do, what your background is. You know, this firm has, and myself, we've represented the high-end clients, but we've also represented, and I'm just using this term generally, you know, more day-to-day, 9-to-5 individuals as well. And I'm telling you that, you know, there's a lot of the similar reactions. It does not matter how much money you have or how successful you think you've been financially or otherwise. You know, when you're not seeing your son or daughter or children, it hurts. It hurts for the janitor, it hurts for the CEO.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, and again, I'm going back to my three, you know, kind of fundamentals of what I spoke to you about is, you know, we have to, I try to my best to get clients back here. Let's keep our eye on the prize. Let's manage expectations. Let's go back to our plan. Okay, and we've got to be realistic. And let's go back to our plan. And this is why it's going to be okay.
So, no, I agree with you. So one of the things that our community asked me to ask you, and it's something we don't talk about actually, I don't think I've ever had a guest who's talked to me about this. So nobody wants to go to trial, right? Nobody does, right? That's not anyone's goal going into it unless you're a really extremist who wants to punish somebody for something, right?
I was just gonna, yeah, most people do not want to go. There's some that are just hell bent, but yes, the smart, prudent people do not want to go to trial.
Okay, so let's pretend, and I know this from personal experience. It takes two people to have a civil divorce, but only one to have some kind of very, you know, animosity-filled, drama, you know, filled kind of divorce. So what can you tell the people who, you know, they're trying to be reasonable, they're trying to be sensible, they're trying to be fair, but they have an ex-spouse who really is just, you know, maybe they have some kind of personality disorder, narcissism, sociopath, whatever, or maybe they're just hell-bent on revenge or whatever their motives are. How, as the kind of more normal one of the pair, how do you go through navigating that? Because you probably know, or you'll probably end up going through trial. How do you navigate that the best way you can?
So I think that's a very good question. And you're absolutely right. You need two people to tango. So mediation, for example, you have to be candidates for mediation. Although there are some statutes in some states that, you know, generally require everyone to go to mediation. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that because from my experience, not every two people are candidates. Because like you just said, if you have one that can put themselves in the other person's shoes and the other just is closed-minded, it's probably not going to work. And we wasted some time and money. So what I tell people that when I have that scenario is, we're not going to let the other side dictate our narrative. Okay, we're going to put on our case. We're going to put on the best case that we can, and we're not going to let the other side necessarily make us react and go down a path that we don't want to go. All right. So that's what I'm going back to. You know, I hate to be repetitive, but what's our plan? Let the other side spin their wheels. Now, in the meantime, if they're going on and on, then, you know, we have some recourse, okay? We can show the judge, possibly through pretrial conferences and certain petitions to be filed, that look what the other side is doing, okay? And we have provisions, at least in the state of Illinois, where if someone is unnecessarily prolonging the litigation or not being reasonable, we can file for attorney's fees, which is something that I did the other day. I represented who I found to be a very reasonable client, very reasonable positions. The other side, I believe, like in your scenario, was just saying no to say no. Doesn't matter what was offered. It's not happening. Don't care. No, we're going to trial. So I just got an award for $15,000 in attorney's fees because I showed the judge, listen, we've been reasonable this entire time. This person is steadfast on going to litigation no matter what. And through certain rules of evidence, I was allowed to bring in bad faith negotiations by the other side, showing the court that they had no intent of settling or no intent of being reasonable. And the judge says, you know what? You're absolutely right. And therefore, I'm going to punish the other side. I'm going to award attorney's fees from them to you because I believe you incurred fees, somewhat engaging in this type of behavior. And then once that happens, you'd be surprised. Things clean up pretty quick. People get very reasonable after that.
It is amazing what happens when in England, we call it when the worm turns.
Yeah.
I don't know what they call it here, but no, that's very true. And so the next question that our community asked for you is, okay, so for example, as we said, you have people who really just, you cannot negotiate with them in any kind of sane forum. And so how do you then kind of make sure, and this is like a big topic for a lot of people, and I think that you can explain it better, but whatever you settle for the first time, you're stuck with pretty much, right?
So give me an example. What do you mean?
So in other words, okay, I'm going through a divorce, or one of our clients is going through a divorce, and they're just so overwhelmed by the court system, so overwhelmed by their ex's poor behavior, they just sign anything because it's taken too long. It's, they're emotionally basically beat down, like, war of appeasement that people do to each other. And so why is it so important that these people just shouldn't sign anything to make it end?
I think that another good question, I think it's on a case-by-case basis, because I think it matters about what you're giving up if you think you're giving up something. So not every fight is worth fighting for, okay? Not every battle is worth winning, because sometimes the reward or the result is not worth what you expended to go get it. And sometimes that's a tough conversation, but I think that there's some logic behind it. In other words, I tell clients that there's an issue, and the issue is worth $2,000, okay? And I'm equating that to attorney's fees. And our path sometimes might be $5,000 to go get it. And that's what I tell clients, and they really appreciate it and see it, is why would you pay me $5,000? And let's say I knocked it out of the park to go get $2,000. You're in the hole 3, it's not worth it. So it's a case-by-case basis. So something like that, I would say, listen, you know what? Make them feel like they won. We know the true story. It's that battle is not worth fighting. And I think it's a case-by-case basis. Now, relative to the children, might be something different. But I will let clients know, I have a fiduciary duty. I know what clients, want. But I think some things are okay to say, you know what, that's not worth my time, stress, money, and energy. I will be okay from that. That's not going to have long-lasting effects. You know what, that's fine. I will let it go. Yeah,
because you see, and I deal with people, and we have, some in the community, and it's just such a sad situation. If they've been in the family court system for, 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, right? I mean, it breaks my heart, because that's time. Time is the most valuable of all assets. You can't retract that. You can't get that back.
No, you're right. You're right. And some people do concede, but it's knowing what you're actually conceding. Okay. And that's what, again, I apologize. It's the plan. What's our plan? How are we going to get there? We keep our eye on the prize. And what is this worth to me? Some people have their pros and cons, and some people have their list of wants, and some things are higher than the others. And that's something you need to talk with your attorney about. I mean, 8 years, oof, God bless them. That is we see some long divorces. That is a long time. But that's, there's other factors that go into that.
Right.
But you've got to stay true to the plan. But I don't see a whole lot where people, when they say, you know what, I give up, they can have everything. It's more often than not, 99.9% of the time, it's not everything. It's not everything. You know,
it's a narrative they tell, maybe.
It's things that the clients thought were everything,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not everything.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so how do we find, okay, so a lot of people who are listening know my story. So how I found my first lawyer was I went onto the internet and I Googled best lawyer in Orlando. And that did not work out very well, let me tell you. So how do we find great lawyers like you and your company and other people? It's just because obviously online or billboards, whatever, it's just so many people everywhere. How do we even know where to start?
Okay, so you're very good at this. You are the divorce and online and accessible queen. You are the best, okay? For example, we found each other, right? I'm in Chicago, you're in Florida. Okay. And we linked up because of your great presence on social media and the internet. So number one, that's a good way for attorney, you know, maybe not type in best lawyer and stop your search there, but that certainly can be one option. A little secret that clients can do is most attorneys offer free client consultations, generally over the phone for 30 minutes. It's okay to call someone up and ask them, listen, I'm thinking about possibly filing, or this is my issue. Do you have a free consultation? We'll do it over the phone. Generally, when it's over the phone, the attorneys are more inclined to do that, and they will talk to you for 30 minutes. And generally in that 30 minutes, you can get to know who's on the end of the phone. You know, it's good to have a good relationship with your attorney. If you and your attorney can kind of see eye to eye, you like what they're saying, they're showing you a little bit of that plan and what they can provide with you, you know, within reason, right? There's only so much facts that you can divulge in 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. Generally find out, you know, what your attorney is like. And then reviews, you know, there's these websites, Avo, I know there's Google and Yelp, and you can kind of hear from, you know, little synopsis from other former clients that can kind of let you know a little bit what's behind the door.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. And I agree with you. I mean, getting to talk to them one-on-one is really, really valuable. I equate it to dating. You never really know. No, but you don't know what you're getting if you don't speak to somebody, right?
You're absolutely right. And that's how about you and I, right? We didn't initially connect for a show. You vetted me. We spoke a couple times.
Yeah.
You know, before you put me on your very prestigious show and podcast and website, you know, we spoke several times and we had a nice vibe and we were able to communicate and have an understanding. And then, you know, we established the former relationship, if you will.
Right. Right. And that's how it should be, right? Because when people don't know this at the beginning, I certainly didn't know this, that your lawyer becomes your, you know, superhero, as I like to call them. They're out there doing battle for you, defending you. You have some great results, which is why actually I reached out to you, because I had read some really great things about you. But that's what you want. You want somebody that you feel comfortable with, that you really believe is going out there to do the best case they can for you. Because for you as a divorcee, this is your life, right? This isn't playtime.
You're absolutely right. It's, you know, you said that the superhero, and not to pat myself on the back, but we had a very high profile, high contentious case. And when you said that, I actually had it was very cute. A client sent me a card with Superman, but my face was superimposed on the card. And there was a nice note about, because a child was involved, and then there was a nice photo of the little boy. So you're absolutely right. It almost gets me going just thinking about it. But you know, these attorneys and, you know, some of the good ones, you have to, again, keep your clear head. But you know, the attorneys get invested as well. And you're absolutely right. You know, some of these lawyers, because of the importance of the issues you're dealing with, you know, they can act within, you know, like a superhero type fashion, maybe, if you will. But, you know, it's all got to be, you know, within reason and relative and, you know, things like that. But no, you're right. It's a very important role. and it's important for the attorney to treat it like that.
Yeah.
And I run a little different practice here. I'm not like most lawyers. I give out my cell phone to clients. So now that's a little, that's not a lot of lawyers do that. So because some of my clients work during the week and they have a lot going on during the week. And sometimes the only time for them to take a breath and have a clear thought is a Saturday or Sunday.
Right.
So I have met with clients on the weekends. I certainly talk to clients who communicate with them on the weekends. So, but I know I do that because I know the importance, right? Every case, they always call me. I know you're busy. I know you've got other things going on. I know you have more important. I said, no. First of all, don't ever apologize. This is the most important thing I'm doing right now. I'm talking to you. Every case is the most important thing. Because if I'm calling, I don't want, if I'm a client, certainly, I don't want someone to think I'm on a lesser totem pole or at the bottom of the ladder. I don't want, and that's not how in my practice, I try not to treat my clients like that.
No, and that says a lot about you. And thank you for being one of the good guys out there, because obviously divorce attorneys get a really bad reputation. And I tell people and our clients every day, it's not all of them. Unfortunately, it's a few in a actual population of really mostly very, very decent people who are out there trying to do the best for obviously my community and people like me. Because my actually second attorney is brilliant, or was brilliant, is brilliant, but my first attorney was awful, right? So that's my personal story. So we can't lump them all together. So thank you for being one of the good guys.
I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm learning every day, but I'm certainly trying. I'm trying my best.
Well, that's all we can do, right? Okay, so now for some fun.
Right.
So if you could talk about superheroes, if you could be a superhero, you don't necessarily have to pick one, but what superpower would you have?
I bet everybody says flying and being invisible. You know what I would like to know? Maybe it's because of my profession. I want to know what other people are thinking.
Mind reading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to know because I do negotiations and stuff like that. I would love to know what other people are thinking, because then we could just go right to the point. We could go right to the point. We could resolve it and be done, be happy. That's what I would love. That would be I think that would be the best. I don't need to fly. I don't need to be invisible anymore because I know exactly what you're thinking.
Yeah.
I don't need to run away. I don't need speed. I don't need anything. I
think that would be the perfect one for any attorney, quite frankly, especially in mediations or at trial. And the judge would be going, how did you know that? How did you do that? Yeah, interesting though. But I do think you can tell a lot, I'm sure in your profession, my profession too, you can tell a lot about people sometimes by what they don't even say.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It's a lot of poker. There's a lot of poker going involved.
Yeah. Okay, and if you could have dinner with any two people, living or dead, who would they be?
I'm gonna make people groan here, because I would do. Here we go. You ready? Mom and dad. Mom and dad.
Oh. Oh, that is cute though. No, it's true, because all the people I know who sadly have lost their parents, I think everyone would say that. And if we appreciate them while we hear more, that's probably a really good thing. Yeah,
those would be the two. Yeah, mom and dad.
Oh, well, awesome. Well, Joseph, you have been an amazing guest. Thank you so much for being one of our experts today. We'd love to have you back. Anytime you're bored, let me know. So where can people find you?
So they can find me online. I've got an Instagram presence, Twitter presence, but the best way is NapoliFamilyLaw.com. And you can find me at my firm's website as well, BiermanLaw.com. And Bierman has 2 E's and then 2 N's as in Nancy. So NapoliFamilyLaw.com and BiermanLaw.com.
Okay, awesome. And if you didn't catch that, we will put the links to Joseph and his firm in all of our social media and articles. So thank you so much, and keep doing what you're doing. And you're helping a lot of people, so thank you.
Tiffany, this was a lot of fun. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.